and hand it over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it. Um, oh, hold on a second. I moved back. Okay. So there's three of us on the panel today. There's Mary Kay Fariasi, who's an elder law attorney, and Mark Smolenski, who is with American Advisors Group. He is a a reverse mortgage lending officer. And my name is Terry Brady, and I am also with American Advisors Group and also a reverse mortgage lending officer. So I have our numbers up here, which you can take down in case we are not able to get to your questions today, or if there is a situation that's unique that you want to ask us about on your own time. So feel free to do that. We also will be showing this at the end. So if you can't take a picture of it now with your cell phones, which is what some people end up doing or writing them down, then I will give you another chance later. So we are going to talk today about being able to look at the possibility of aging in place. It's becoming more and more important as we are all aging, and there are many aspects to it that we need to address. As Megan said, we are from the National Aging in Place Council, the Greater Chicagoland chapter. Our mission is to educate and empower families and communities in the Chicagoland area to live safely, independently, and comfortably in the home of their choice for as long as they choose. The council is made up of a group of licensed professionals, business owners, and advocates who are committed to providing outreach and education to inform and educate older families and their adult children. Sorry about the phone. I forgot to turn that off. We collaborate and work together and find that we can help a lot more people and older adults if we are able to bring in the services from everybody. There are many different needs, and we tend to say, hey, if I can't help you, then there's someone else who can help you on the council. And we bring those providers in as we work with our clients. We've learned from experience and from networking that we have a lot of resources that we can offer to adults, and all of us specializes in working with older adults. As I said before, our panel today includes the three of us, and we are happy to introduce you to other people if you have other needs that go beyond our own. This is just showing the sort of reality of how we are all getting older in terms of the population. By 2035, there will be more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 18. Currently, in terms of being even older, over the age of 85, there is 7 million people. And by 2050, we are going to have 19 million over the age of 85. We are all getting longevity in our lives. And it is just becoming this upside down triangle where a lot more people are getting older and a lot less people are there to take care of us. So we all realize that this is a situation that we are going to have for a long time going forward. What does aging in place mean? Aging in place is a term used to describe a person living in a home of their choice for as long as they're able to as they age. So it encompasses the ability to access any services, any assisted tools, and other support that may be needed in the person's chosen residence over time as needs change. So it's basically being able to stay in your home. That's how I described it to my own mom. There are many components to aging in place. The important thing is going to be to have a plan. Those plans consist of many different issues. One is housing. What is it that you need to do to your home and how do you need to change it to be able to live safely in your home? There's the health and medical questions. What is your status now and how may your needs change in the future in terms of your health and your medical needs? There's the financial and legal, which talks about, do you have an estate plan set up? Do you have the funds available to be able to maintain your home and continue to stay in your home? There's the transportation component. Many people reach a point where they can no longer drive. Is there public transportation available? Is there a way for them to get around? And then there's the community and social access. you're staying in your home, you tend to be more isolated. How can we help people continue to have resources to come into their home, or for them to have the outreach to go out and be able to continue with their interests, their hobbies, et cetera, and not become isolated in their home, which is very important as we all age. Our network is made out of many different types of professionals. They range from home designers, home modifications that talks about the housing issues, the elder law attorneys like Mary Kay today that talks about the estate plan, financial planners, the home equity options, because your house tends to be your biggest asset. That's what Mark and I specialize in. There's the in-home healthcare, which addresses your medical and non-medical needs. And then there's many therapists that we work with to help you be able to stay healthy while you're in your home. We all know each other, we all work together, and we all are confident in being able to refer people to each other. I want to go now to Mary Kay. She is going to today we're talking specifically about financial and legal. I want to point out that there are other weeks where we talk about the other issues. We tend to separate them into these different categories. So today we're talking about financial and legal, and that's hopefully why you're here. But if you have questions about the other issues, please let us know. So today, Mary Kay is going to start us off with the legal aspect. Go ahead, Mary Kay.
Thank you, Terry. I'd like to start with what I have up there on the chart or on the slide. It talks about the life care planning process. So I am actually a life care planning law firm, which is a little bit more than an estate planning attorney. If you think about it from layers, we not only do the estate planning, but we do the elder law piece, which is the coordination of the Medicare and the Medicaid, and then also the care coordination. So I've put a diagram up there. I don't know, I'm a very visual person, so it sort of explains to you kind of the pieces that go and that are a part of this life care planning process. It's a balance with ongoing developments with your loved ones, the income, the assets, your family, federal and state programs, healthcare strategies, finding and funding some of these healthcare strategies. And again, these long-term care strategies and how are we going to fund these. So next slide, please, Terry. Is that okay?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that might be. Okay, so again, if you look at the life care planning, you can see where it tends to, or we try to be a bridge between not only retirement planning, but also estate planning and end of life. So it's a continuum. Retirement planning focuses on having the resources available to meet retirement lifestyle goals. It involves estate planning, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too, which that deals with the transfer and of the authority and the decision-making responsibilities, transfer of assets, and neither deal with something you didn't plan for. Life care planning is this intersection between the legal and the care planning. Sometimes the things that we don't necessarily know are going to be coming along the way, but this life care planning model allows us to plan for those. As I said, traditional elder law attorneys focus on the way property is passed from one generation to the next. It may provide a foundation for financial and care decision-making through the powers of attorney, but it does not meet the full range of care needs, including how to pay for long-term care associated with aging and disability. Next slide, please, Terry. So if you look again once on this diagram, this is what we refer to as the elder care continuum. And if you look along the left side, we have health and ability to function, we have home sweet home, cost of care, and then down at the bottom, there's public benefits and available resources. And it's designed for, as you can see, if you move along the top, where we have no function limits, limited function, to all the way to significant limited function, you can see where we start in our home, and when our function is severely limited, oftentimes we may end up in a nursing home. And if we look below that, we can see that that's really where we're going to start becoming, where it's going to become more expensive as far as our care. And then again, you look down at the bottom and you look to maybe some of the available resources that we're going to be looking to pay for those. And we get to the nursing home, the significant limited functioning. We're looking at Medicaid, Medicare, and a lot of times family caregivers. Next slide, please. So if you look along this elder care continuum, and as I said, this sort of overlays on top of that previous slide. And if you can advance a little bit, Terry, you'll see how if we're within these certain arrowed functions where we're sort of in full functioning, we're in our home. As we progress into the nursing home range, we can see where our functioning is decreasing, and we're obviously looking into, or we're beginning to incur additional expenses, and we're having to look to some of our public benefits and our possible private pay, our resources. So this again is where we take into all of these factors into consideration, and we put them all together into a plan that's specific to your particular needs and also your goals. So, what we do focuses on a needs assessment. It focuses on what you particularly need and based on essentially what you have. Some people may have very limited resources. Some people may have fairly moderate resources, but still want to live at home. So, what we try to do is based on what is actually going on from a medical perspective, we take all of these factors into consideration and try to put a plan together so that as we move along this progression, things are happening in a much more planned process rather than crisis. So that's one of the things that we're trying to avoid with the life care planning model. Next slide, please, Terry. So let's talk a little bit about the estate plan. You all know the estate plan is a collection of documents, usually prepared by an attorney, and our job is to ensure that your wishes are followed while you are alive, so that you are, but also when you're unable to make your own decisions, and then after death to make certain that your stuff is transferred to the right people in the most efficient manner. So how do we do that? Well, it's called an estate plan, and we're going to talk about the different components and how each one of them sort of what their main function is. But remember, they're all together. They sometimes I refer to them as the whack-a-mole game. You know, sometimes one pops up and we're dealing with that, and another time another one sort of pops up and we're dealing with that. But they're all part of this whole sort of package of documents that we need. Generally, all of them are needed, but we're going to talk about each one individually. So you can go ahead, Terry. Yes, thank you. So yeah, if you look on the slide there, what we have right now is that's the comprehensive estate planning. Now, this is just to reinforce that while I may be able to use complicated planning strategies, that the mere fact that I can use them doesn't necessarily mean that everyone needs them. It's just to reinforce that their goals are the focus of the type of planning that I do. So in other words, it's very family specific, very fact specific. So it's really important to remember that. As people live longer lives, they also live healthier ones for the most part. But with advancing age comes increased risk of some serious illnesses, as we all know, including Alzheimer's. And about half of those, which statistically is very interesting, about half of those people who live past the age of 85 will have the disease according to the Alzheimer's Association. So that's a very high statistics. I know we're constantly hearing on improvements for the Alzheimer's, whether it's diagnosis, whether it's treatment. I know there's a new drug that has just come out. But again, you know, there's a lot of controversy about that right now. So we're still sort of at that stage where it's still one of those things out there that we all, based on the fact that the majority of us are going to live a longer life, to sort of have to plan for it. Hopefully it's not going to happen, but a prudent person is going to want to plan for it. More than 5 million Americans currently suffer from dementia, and that number is projected to increase to more than 7 million by 2025, unless medical breakthroughs help alleviate the suffering. And as I said, there are some things going on right now, but we still haven't reached that point yet. People with dementia usually eventually lose their memory, their cognitive ability, and language. If you or someone in your family is concerned about the prospect of impairment, you should know that it's very important to get legal documents in place before the dementia. And again, I emphasize this very, very heavily, before dementia makes it impossible for you to understand the issues and make an informed decision. I can't tell you how many times I have people that will call me up and say, I need a power of attorney for my mom, because we need to step in and make her decisions. Well, if we're at that point and mom doesn't have one, it's too late. And then we're going to have to end up in guardianship. And that's not something we want to do. That's when we're going to have to go to the court and get the judge involved. And that's not our what we want to be doing. You can't make a legally valid will, power of attorney, or other legal documents unless you are what's commonly called sound mind. That is, you must understand your family circumstances. You must be able to act of your own free will and understand the consequences of your choices. So again, let's talk about a little bit in depth about some of these individual documents. So one of the things that's always very important, and I know a lot of people want to start off with the will, but trust me, that's important. But here's the funny thing about it is that the will's not going to come into play until you're deceased. So we're going to need a few more documents before that happens. So that's where the power of attorney for finances, the power of attorney for healthcare, these are very, very important documents. The power of attorney for finances, this is a document that lets you choose someone to have control over your financial assets if it's ever necessary. You can give that person, and they're called the agent or attorney in fact, authority immediately, or structure the document so that the authority kicks in only if someday a doctor certifies that it's necessary. Many people choose to make the power effective immediately, trusting that the person they've chosen won't act unless it's necessary. Okay, so what does that mean? When we're talking about a financial durable power of attorney, we're usually using the term, which people have heard, durable. What does that mean? Well, if you're in a hospital and you now have become not able to do the things that you need, that agent can now come in and pay your pills. But the biggest benefit is if there is a long period of incapacity, as there often is with dementia. So sometimes, our power of attorney can kind of pop in, pop out, so that's why it's important that's the purpose of making this document durable. As long as you're able, remember this, as long as you're able, you can make the decisions for yourself. It's interesting. Here's another important statistics that the Alzheimer's Association has published, that people with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's on average live about 8 years. So if you think about all of the things that are going to need to be taken care of, again, like I said, before you die, you can see why these documents, these powers of attorneys, can be so important. Without a power of attorney, no one, not even your spouse or the executor, and this is again, a lot of people make this misunderstand the purpose of an executor. That executor, as I said, doesn't come into being until you're dead. So they don't have any authority to take the necessary financial tasks, such as paying bills and managing retirement accounts or selling assets. So again, if without this power of attorney, we're going to have to go to court. And then you're going to have to do this. You have to produce evidence that you cannot manage your affairs. You're going to have to ask the court. And then you're going forward. This person that now has to be appointed by the court has to go to court to ask for everything, ask for permission. So that's not really, again, like I said, the optimum situation of how we want to do this. We want to do these documents while we're able to. So let's talk about the healthcare directive, another very important document. So when you create this, you're planning for the possibility of dementia or other disabilities. In these documents, you provide directions to your healthcare providers about your wishes for end-of-life care, and you name someone to carry out your wishes if you can't. These documents can give enormous relief. And this is something I always tell my families, is that you're basically giving a gift to your family, because your family members now that are having to make these difficult decisions about your care when you're not able to do it, if you have given them clear direction from you, it'll make their lives easier trust me, at a very difficult time. So if you've done these documents and you've had these conversations, you're really, really helping out your family. And as I said, there's a couple of components to the healthcare directives. There's the living will component, which this is a document that's strictly a document. So it's a little bit different than that power of attorney, but they work together. The living will is where you express your wishes for end of life care. They typically cover pain relief and medical treatments. Essentially, it's, you don't want life sustaining, you don't want heroic measures to be done. Usually, CPR or something like that if you have an incurable end of life sort of situation. So again, one of the things I want to be really, that I really want to stress in these documents is not only do we do them, but always make sure that you pick someone that you ultimately trust, because you're giving people enormous amounts of power. So it's important that you trust them. Now, if we look at these, the HIPAA authorization. So the HIPAA authorization is another very important document. It allows, HIPAA is your right to have whoever you do and do not want to have access to your healthcare information. So again, it's very important that we have that document available if we're in a situation of where, excuse me, of where someone needs to have access to your healthcare information. Now, if we look down at the bottom, we'd look at, there's a lot of trusts, and I could do a whole lecture, a whole presentation on trusts alone. But one of the things what's interesting to remember is that, like a will, your living trust lets you leave your assets to whomever you choose. The advantage of a trust is that after your death, your beneficiaries don't have to conduct a probate court proceeding. So that's, again, we want to do our powers of attorney and our wills to stay out of court. It's the same thing sometimes with a trust. We want to avoid probate. So that's one of these main reasons of why we want to do this estate planning and make it comprehensive. A trust can also help with planning for dementia, because your successor trustee, the person that you name to take over after your death, can take control of trust assets if you become incapacitated. So there's that added benefit of what a trust will do, as opposed to strictly what a will do. The trustee's authority extends only to the assets held in the name of the trust, however. So that's why it's always important to coordinate that with our beneficiary designations. And then, of course, we have the Medicaid and the VA pension planning. And why is that on this comprehensive estate planning slide? Is because one of the things that's important is when you sit down to do your powers of attorney, particularly your powers of attorney for finance, it's important that we include some of these planning techniques, because unfortunately, if we don't have these powers in our powers of attorney, sometimes that's not something we can do. We can't dismantle your ultimate estate planning distribution. So it's something to sort of be aware of. Your agent can only do the things that you've enumerated in your powers of attorney. So that's again one of those advantages to dealing with a elder law attorney, because those are the pieces or the added benefit that we bring to the documents that we prepare. Again, it's a layer of protection if you think about it that way. Next slide, Terry. So let's look at the simple steps to an estate plan. So first of all, as I said, in a will, you state who you want to inherit your property, and you name a guardian to care for your young children, so should something happen to you and the other parent. You're going to consider a trust. If you hold your property in a living trust, your survivors won't have to go through probate court, a time-consuming and often expensive process. Make healthcare directives. Writing out your wishes for healthcare can protect you if you become unable to make healthcare decisions for yourself. Again, it gives someone you chose the power to make decisions if you can't. Same with the power of attorney for finances. The other thing is we should name an adult to manage any money and property if we have minor children. Something to be always very aware of. File our beneficiary forms. One of the things I always remind my clients is at the end of the year, when we're reviewing for our taxes, we want to review all of our financial documents. Remember, anything you get that kicks off a 1099 to you, or something that's going to give you income, Make sure that you understand how it's titled, understand if it's one of those accounts that has a beneficiary designation or that it corresponds with your ultimate estate plan. Remember, they pass outside of your will and also of your trust. Next slide, please. So the other things we want to consider when we're talking about doing an estate plan is we want to consider life insurance. So again, if you have young children or own a house or you may owe significant debts or estate tax when you die, life insurance may be a good idea. Understand estate taxes. Most estates, more than probably about 99.7%, won't owe federal estate taxes. For deaths in 2017, the federal government, or after, excuse me, will impose a state tax at your death only if your taxable estate is worth more than $5.4 million. So again, we have to be aware of these types of situations. So what I generally tell my clients is if you together as a married couple have anywhere, as we live in this state of Illinois, so we have a little bit of a caveat we have to be aware of. Most of us don't have to worry about federal because we're not, unless we're married and have over $23 million, we don't usually have to worry about that. But if we're in the state of Illinois and we have, and this is something to remember because maybe you may not have it now, but if you're in your 40s and still working and contributing, you may, for the state of Illinois right now, and I always say that right now because we all know that a lot of this is up for grabs, especially whenever we have new governments, that it's for anybody that I usually say has anything with, again, a married couple that you have $4 million, you're going to definitely want to talk to an estate planning attorney so that you can plan for in the event of being able to discuss and figure out what you may or not want to do with your taxes. You want to talk about covering funeral expenses, make final arrangements. These are, again, things that most people don't think of as being included in their estate plan. Of course, a lot of my clients do from the elder perspective, but none of us really has guaranteed tomorrow. So it is always something to at least have a conversation about so that people at least know. Protect your business. Anybody out there that has a business, this is so important. I'm in the process right now of handling a family that mom and dad passed away, had a family business, had multiple properties. Several of the family members are working in the family business. No estate documents, nothing. So I'm now into year 7 of trying to probate this estate. And this is with all of the 5 siblings fairly getting along. So you can only imagine if there were disagreements and fighting, the enormous cost to litigation and all of that. So again, if you have a business, make sure that you've thought about that and have made some arrangements with your estate. And then the other thing is store your documents. And don't put them in a safety deposit box, maybe somewhere, and then nobody has access to it until, we have to go and open up a probate estate. Keep them handy. Keep them somewhere where people can see them. Don't put them in a safe. I had a friend her mom put them in the safe right before she died, and they couldn't find the key, and she had to blast the wall, the safe out of the wall. That's not something you want to do. Keep them. They're meant to be used. They're meant to be read. When we prepare them, we put them in a nice little binder, and tell your kids, tell your agents, tell them where it is, and keep it updated. Keep a list of all of your assets, all the passwords. That's another biggie. I have a lot of times where my clients will get locked out and then they can't. And so again, think about it when you do these documents and you put them all away, or you get them all organized. Remember, try to make them as easy for someone to step in as if they were going to take your place tomorrow. And then you'll make their job a lot easier. Okay, so next slide. So I get a lot of times when people will come in and they'll say, I need a will. And I'll say, yeah, well, you need a will at a minimum, but let's talk about some other documents that are important. Because again, as we went through, a will isn't the place to handle certain kinds of property or issues. It isn't the place to leave certain kinds of property. I love this, the funeral instructions. How many of us have watched on TV, how many times the reading of the will? There's no such thing. The will never usually gets accessed until way past someone has already been, the funeral arrangements have been made and the mourning has been accomplished. You know, do we ever even get to the will? So that's why, again, it's important to do these additional kinds of documents or uh, information. It's not going to reduce estate taxes. It's not going to avoid probate. It's going to, you can't put certain conditions on gifts. If we have someone in our family that perhaps is a spendthrift or have some issues maybe with handling money, but we still want to give them money. I've got 4 kids. Maybe one of them would have a problem with managing money, but you know, everybody equates equality and money to love. So even though you would want to protect that, you know, give that person that money, you want to give it in a protected fashion. Or maybe you have somebody that has a gambling problem or something. So there's a ways, there are things that you can do in a trust to provide for them, give the money. And again, if you have somebody with a special needs, maybe you have a son or daughter or a grandchild on special needs getting some sort of governmental benefits. Again, that's another reason why we need to do trusts. Leave money for an illegal purpose. This one, people are, what are you talking about? Well, again, that's if somebody like is into drinking or something like that. So that's what the illegal purpose means, or, you know, drugs, something of that nature. So if you have someone that you know has a problem, of course, you're not going to want to, but you may want to leave it for them. But again, you could, that's another purpose for some of these trusts. You can arrange to care for a beneficiary with a special needs. I already talked about that. And then you can leave money to pets. I have a lot of people that want to make sure that their pets are taken care of. So that's one of the things that we can do in a trust. Next slide. I think we're finished. Thank you. On to you, Mark.
Got to turn off that mute. Thanks, Mary Kay. Appreciate it. That's very good information. I do work with seniors all the time in regards to reverse mortgages. I have been doing it since 2004, and it's a challenge on a daily basis sometimes to make sure that all those things are taken care of. It's important to plan ahead, is what I always say. And you can never plan enough because we don't know what tomorrow will bring. There's a couple slides in here that we're always trying to make challenges, you know, and our challenge in our life is usually get to the top of the mountain to have enough money so we can spend it to get to the bottom of the mountain or so. It's kind of funny, but we're always trying to do a little bit better and save a little bit more money in regards to providing for our retirement. That's the key thing. Ultimate goal is not just make it to the top, but it's necessary always to get down. You know, the key set requiring is not the same to reach summit is how we also just, you know, show distribution of the funds. So in retirement, the retirement phase, when you pull money from your accounts, rather than accumulating wealth, you make descending the mountain, going down it, how to take it out without tax problems and things like that. So we have a series of different ways of looking at that. Terry, can you slide, please? So in goals here, we have retirement goals. One is longevity. To make money that's going to last through my retirement, that's a key thing. And we don't know how long that's going to be. So if we all had, you know that we're going to be here in our 30 years, 15 years, whatever it is, we can plan for the longevity, but then we don't know that. Lifestyle. So, you know, we're not talking about, you know, going out into the Caribbean and traveling, but we can. But we'd like to do that. Some things on the bucket list. I always recommend everybody making the most of it as long as we can. So afford to eating even decent restaurants, just kind of going out and spoil the grandkids and things like that, or even go to a Sox game. I don't know if there's too many Sox people here or Cub people, but anyways, but you know, enjoy life. And then liquidity. Key thing is to have funds to stand by for unforeseen expenses. So when we talk about reverse mortgages or home equity conversion mortgage, that's a big part of this. The line of credit program does offer that liquidity, that ability to be able to diversify your money and put it into places where you need it or have accessibility to it. The key thing is having accessibility to it. And then the next thing we're talking about is always the legacy. We always like to try to leave money aside for the kids, grandkids, and things of that nature. So when we talk about legacy, we want to always make sure that we're leaving some money for our grandkids. Recently, well, it's recently, but it's 3 years. I've have a grandson, and he's been wonderful. And people used to tell me, when you have grandkids, it's so much different than having children. And I didn't understand what they said until you do have a grandchild, and it's wonderful to have a grandchild. So it's wonderful to have something to be able to spend on them, and then maybe leave them a college fund or a little bit of money for their next car or something like that, or their wedding when they get married. For most Americans, just living in their home, is a challenge. But, how long are we going to live in our homes? Are we going to live there 10 years or maybe 20 years or maybe 30 years? But it's our source of our largest investment. It's where all our money is tied up. We do have money in the IRAs, possibly 401ks. We do have money hopefully coming in for some pensions and things like that. And then Social Security, we do have that. But tapping into our investment, which is our house, a lot of people don't know this, but you hope to have your home as an investment as time goes on, because you buy the house maybe at $17,000 and now it's worth $200,000 to $300,000. When you bought that house at $17,000, would you really thought that your house is going to be worth $250,000? I mean, that's a lot of money. I would have never thought what our house is worth when I bought it, but it's appreciating, which will continue to do that, which we're glad to see. And I know that everybody has a lot of equity in their home, and it's time to be able to maybe sometimes use it. So there is other options that we could do to access money. Who wants to get a job? We spend our lives working, and that's been a good thing to do. We do it for family. We do it for a lot of reasons. But at the same time, I think that our ideals change now, and getting a job would be more of looking at it from a fun point of view. We always talk about being a greeter at Walmart sometime and just doing something simple and easy, or just volunteer your time. So there's other things you want to do to earn money, not necessarily go to work. You don't want to sell your home because that's your place. Where else are you going to go? You got to have a place to, live. And you've developed it, and you made it into a position where it's comfortable for you and your family and all those memories. You could also refinance your home to have access to additional money. But what do you think you can get? When you refinance in a traditional loan, you have to make a payment. But when you refinance from a reverse mortgage, there is no monthly payments. You're just accessing some of the equity that you have in your home. So that brings up to the next point. The HECM loan, which is a home equity conversion mortgage, is very important because it's an option that does not have the drawbacks of a traditional mortgage. You don't have to qualify the same way. I think it's easier. You have more access to the funds. You don't have a monthly payment, which is a key thing. And you don't have to go to work, which is nice. You can spend more time doing fun things like volunteering or kayaking down the Saguenay Slough. So what is a HECM loan? HECM is an acronym, like in anything in this world, there's always acronyms. Home equity conversion mortgage, home equity conversion mortgage. What it does is it converts money, the equity, into money, I should say. So you have equity in your home, and what it does is it converts it into accessible liquidity, access to the funds for whatever use. The nice thing about it is an FHA loan, so it's insured and guaranteed from the federal government. Now, where have you heard that a loan is exclusive to someone who is 62 years or older, which is rather unique? But it is. This loan is only for people 62 years or older. So if you're 30 years old, you can't get the loan. But one of the nice things about it is that you've earned it, you've built up that equity, and you have access to it. It's also commonly known as a reverse mortgage loan. Throughout the United States, AAG is the #1 lender in reverse mortgages. But more importantly, not enough people know about what it can do or what it can't do. That's why you talk to people that know and have experience. That's, like I said, there is no monthly payments when it comes to reverse mortgage. Well, why isn't there a monthly payment? You can make a monthly payment if you want, but it's not a requirement. So when you take out a home equity loan, for example, what do? You take out a home equity loan and you have to make a payment. Home equity loans are great for small things like a roof or air conditioning or a furnace or something like that. But longevity, as we talked about in an earlier slide, is that the reverse mortgage program or a home equity conversion mortgage offers a longevity of having accessibility to funds through the program. It's not a new program. It's been around since 1961, I believe. It was signed into law by President Reagan as an official program. A lot of misnomers. People think that you come off on titles, but you always keep your name on title. You always own your home. So no matter what happens, you always own your home, which also was recommended by Mary Kay, is to have a will and a trust. Those are very important features to have to protect yourself and your family. You never own more than what the home is worth. That's a key thing. A lot of people don't know about what that means. That means that if the house was worth $200,000 and you heard back in 2008, 9, and 10 where a lot of homes were upside down, you can never own more than the home is worth. That's a key factor that comes along with some stability, financial stability is what I call it, to when you leave the home, it's a non-recourse loan, and that means that you would never owe more than your home is worth. It gives you the ability to stay in your home. And again, you don't have to have a monthly payment. So this is a loan. It is taking and using the equity against your house. There's several ways of doing that, but the key thing is that there's a line of credit, which most people use, and you take out what you need. You only pay interest on what you use, and it's always accessible. And it's guaranteed by the federal government. Now, there's different ways of taking the money out of a reverse mortgage. You could take it out as a lump sum, which there's also fixed rate loan programs, which is great. Then there's also monthly installments. So if you said, hey, I just need $1,000 a month, this also can provide you just that little extra money every month, automatically going right into your bank account. Makes it accessible to you and just makes life a little bit easier. It has a growing line of credit, which is really important. So when you get a home equity line of credit from a traditional bank, which are good, but this has that excess money grows over time. So we're putting more money in there for you, not just us, but that's the way the program works. And then also you could do a combination of all these, which is really cool because if you want a little extra money on a monthly payment and have that line of credit for the repair on the roof or replacing a driveway, or taking your grandson or granddaughter out on a trip or the first cruise or pay for a little bit of college or the first car, things like that. I mean, those are things that they'll always remember. And those are the things that this loan program, this FHA loan program will offer. It makes it accessible and funds stand by when you need them. That's a key thing. And that's an important difference between any other loan because we are giving you interest on that money that you don't use, and you only pay interest in what you do use. And again, at the end, there is no monthly payment. That's a key factor that we work with. The HECM loan is all about the basis on these factors. So when we calculate a loan in a reverse mortgage, it's all backwards. The age of the youngest borrower or eligible non-borrowing spouse is the factor. So the one who is the youngest, if you have a husband and wife, and the youngest one is 62 and the oldest is 64, the 62-year-old is what we'd use for calculations of how much money would be available to you. Some of those factors are existing equity in a home. So if you have a mortgage, we would pay that off for you also and actually access the remaining equity available to you. How we calculate some of this is not only on the age of the borrower, but it's also based on the appraised value of the house. So we do an appraisal on the home. That's a neat thing because now we really know what our house is worth and it's up to date. And it takes into effect all those benefits that you put together in your home. In other words, all those improvements. If you add an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, a great room, maybe that fireplace, all those things will add value. Even a nice shed in the backyard will add value to your home. And then the other factor that determines how much money is available to you is the current interest rate. So we all know that interest rates are really low now, and that works to your advantage because we're finding that because the interest rates are so low and values of home are so high that people are making the most of any loans right now. But the reverse mortgage, it really maximizes the availability of funds and again, doesn't have it doesn't have the changes in regards to a monthly payment. So every situation is different. The key thing here is that we have to understand that by talking to someone that knows and is experienced, like Terry and I, for example, have been doing reverse mortgages for a long time. And every situation is personal. There's no obligation when you talk with us. But the idea behind it is whether it's today or a year or 5 years from now, that you look into a reverse mortgage, you can understand what is the next step. How much money can I get? What is the cost? What is the interest rates? What programs are out there? And again, it doesn't cost anything. I always strongly recommend that you invite your children or a financial advisor, because someone who works with your finances and understands where you're at financially, we actually get a lot of recommendations for people to talk to our clients that are from financial advisors, because they do that because they see that there's limited amount of money maybe available for a certain amount of time. So this will give you more equity that's available accessibly. Every situation is unique, of course, and that's why we always want to do what we call a proposal that gives you the personal numbers that works for you. I talked with a large family today at the kitchen table in their home and just went through all the numbers, told them how much money is available, how it works, answered a lot of questions, and it really made them feel comfortable that what they want to do. So our job here is really to educate and make sure that you have the information to make an educated decision. So hopefully, if you have any other questions, we'd be glad to answer it. You can either reach out to Terry or I and answer any, we will be happy to answer any questions. Some answers are really simple, some are a little bit more complicated, but ultimately, we're here to educate you and provide you that information. So thank you. Back to you, Terry.
Thanks, Mark. So as you can see from today's presentation, we are just a sample of the types of business resources that are available to you. You can reach out to us. The most important thing, as we've said, is to have a plan. That's what Dr. Phil is saying here. If you don't have a plan, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and before you know it, you're looking back saying, I should have had a plan. So, you know, right now, I would suggest that you look ahead. You may never need any of us, but at least start keeping a file of professionals that you meet on Zoom calls like this. You probably go to the senior fairs. I was at one last week where people just start grabbing business cards saying, you know, I may need this at some point. So I'm going to put you in, you know, the Rolodex. A lot of adults still like to use the Rolodex. And then when the time comes that you may need us, it will reduce some of that emotional stress that comes with trying to plan when you're in the middle of it. I would like to go back to what Mary Kay said, because I think as Mark had pointed out, we run into a lot of situations where clients haven't planned. So if you do nothing else after this meeting, get a power of attorney. I can't tell you how difficult it is to work with people who have not had a power of attorney. When children call us up and say, we want to help mom and dad out. And I say, do you have a power of attorney? And I'm sorry. And they say the mom doesn't really understand what's going on. I say, do you have a power of attorney? Because with the privacy laws now and the HIPAA and everything else, it's so important to set that up while they are of sound mind. So set it up for yourself right now. And if nothing else, do that for both financial and health. So Megan, we are happy to answer any questions. Oh, I'm just going to leave this up here. Like I said, you can take our numbers down. If there's a unique situation that you don't want to ask a question about here, feel free to give us a call. But we are also happy to answer questions right now.
I have a question. What does an appraisal cost?
An appraisal on a home equity loan, conversion mortgage, we don't charge that up front. That's included in the closing cost. So that is all part of the process.
So if you just want an appraisal though, without necessarily applying for a loan, can you get that on its own?
Yes, I mean, you can arrange to find an appraisal. I don't know what the range of cost is. Mark, maybe you know, but yeah, that I would say anywhere, probably around 300 or so, 350.
Yeah.
What do you
Maureen,
think, Mark?
we find that some of the appraised values, it depends on the appraisal company. It could be as low as 350. It could be as high as 550 on a regular home.
Okay.
And when it comes to a 3 flat or 4 flat or something like that, those are always cost more because you're evaluating them a little differently.
And then I know obviously you work for reverse mortgages, but what are your thoughts on somebody selling their home and then renting after that? Just because they're tired of owning a home and having all the headaches of maintaining it.
It's a lot of work owning your home. There's no doubt about it. I would just say, like anything else, do your homework. Look at the rent. I actually did an exercise with a gentleman once who I had given a reverse mortgage to, and he found that living at home, even though he had to cut the grass or get someone to cut the grass, an occasional roof repair or something, was cheaper at the end of the day. But yeah, you're always welcome to save your money in rent and then just pay rent. Just be very careful where you like to go. And if it's in a larger multi-unit building, hopefully you like your neighbors.
Yeah, I think a lot of it in Illinois depends on your real estate taxes, to tell you the truth. I mean, if that's another thing I would have wanted to bring up is make sure you're getting your real estate tax freeze and your your senior exemption, your senior freeze and the senior exemption, because if you are going to continue to own your home, make sure you freeze those taxes. Because Mark and I deal with people who, like today, I have a client whose taxes are $800 a year because her son has made sure she's had the freeze. She's 92 years old. Whereas other people don't know about it or haven't done it, and their taxes are, 8,000 to 10,000. So it's so, like Mark says, you have to do the analysis.
Right, but you have to get to the point where you qualify for that freeze.
Well, 65, yeah.
Well, not just your age, but you have to
income.
Make a certain amount under that.
Yes,
and
right.
It's like a 2-year wait period. So
yes, you're right. There's a lot of different components to it. And we're happy to talk about that. We're happy to lead you through that process. Believe me, if you want, we do that a lot with people. As Mark says, with the in-home consultation, he's done it before.
Yeah, we try to educate in regards to using our years of experience, and being part of the National Association of Aging in Place Council. We're always talking. As you're learning this information from Mary Kay and I and Terry, we also learn from all the other people in our chapter. And so we do get together and we talk about these things, and we talk about our clients that have challenges. And so we are better educated to be able to provide you more information. And at the end of the day, it's really just helping people out.
All right, does anybody else have any questions? I didn't see anything come through in the chat. Okay, I think that's it then. Thank you all so much for all of your knowledge and information and sharing that with us. It was a great presentation.
Great.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care.